we're talking about Raven's beautiful, what she's doing with her frequency and stuff, I think when you went over the different states, the 5 states, could you go over those a little bit slowly and give examples of what we're actually doing in those states? Like I know you said theta, we're sleeping. And then could you also like do it from the perspective of somebody who's not using her type of healing technique? And then can you do it again and do those states and describe them when she's in her toroid?
Like for instance, Christo, when he was playing at the house and he was in a delicious state and his music healed because of the frequency he was at, but he was not on the toroid.
Mm-hmm.
And so people can get in different states that are healthy, but what makes the difference between a healthy
is doing it from the toroid, yes.
And then having, you from the tone into the earth and then back up in the suspension spaces in between, so that you were reading me as I was breathing and toning, that I was in all states simultaneously.
Yep.
Yeah, so that would be the caption, and we're done as far as me.
And if we could try to keep the eye line here.
Yeah.
Answering their question.
You answered that question to her. My questions.
Okay.
Was that enough of information?
Yeah, I'm trying to put it in a compartment now so I can work with it.
Let's start with the brain waves, if we could take each,
okay.
each one of the brain waves.
As said before, our brains work on different dominant frequencies. The lowest one, which is 1 to 3 cycles per second, is called delta brain waves. And that's a state we enter when we're in very, very deep sleep. When we're in a dominant state of delta, our bodies are very, very relaxed. A lot of rejuvenating, a lot of healing is going on at a cellular level. When we move up to theta and alpha, we're very calm, we're very relaxed, very little stress, very meditative. When we move from alpha and theta, and these are dominant, these brainwaves are going on all the time within us. The point is, which one is the most dominant at any given time? So when you're in dominant delta or in deep sleep, the dominant frequency is 1 to 3 cycles. We move up to alpha and theta, and we can hit that state when we first wake up, and we feel good, we're nice and relaxed, we can be alpha theta, we can achieve that through meditation or sitting in a vortex. And when we're fully alert, we're more into a low beta state, unless we've trained ourselves to remain in a meditative all day long, which a lot of us cannot do. So
That last sentence for us.
Yeah, I'm going to step out because I'm getting a coughing thing and this is the best stuff, so I'm going to step out because I don't want to ruin it.
It's okay.
whatever works. So should I back up a little bit?
Yeah.
When we are in the brain, I'm going to just start over. The brain works at different brainwave frequencies. So there's delta, which we achieve in deep sleep. The body needs that for at least 2 hours every night. That's when a lot of healing takes place on a cellular level within the body. When we wake up, we enter into a state of alpha theta, which is 7 hertz, 5 hertz, 4 hertz, 8 cycles, 9 cycles. From there, when we're fully awake and fully alert, we're more in a dominant state of beta, but low beta. All of our brainwave activities going on simultaneously. It depends on our state of being at the time that says which one is the strongest. What is the dominant? So I would be now, if I had my equipment hooked up and I'd be monitoring my brain waves, you would see everything in there functioning. You would see some beta, you would see some alpha, some theta, periodically a little bit of delta, but very, very little. The only time you can consciously create delta that I have found is sitting in a vortex and using Raven's method. That's her system replicates delta, alpha, theta. Delta, alpha, theta. It oscillates triangularly, and we'll go into that in a bit. So a state of gamma, well, you'd probably have to be out there fighting or super agitated to hit gamma frequencies. It's very, very high. Now, with regards to what happens with Raven's method, and it goes beyond just saying it's a method. You have the breathing, and you have the toning, you have the sound. And what I have found monitoring Raven's brainwave activity when she's doing that is it'll run at a dominant delta, dominant alpha, dominant theta, dominant delta, dominant alpha, dominant theta. Now, what that is doing, if you look again at our body's toroidal shape, the energy field that surrounds the body, the dominant delta, in my opinion, according to my equipment, is the crossover point as you are moving yourself through that energy field. Again, as above the donut, again, picture a donut, a toroid laying horizontal sideways, and that energy field flowing up, down, alternating as above, so below, as above, so below. With Raven's method, at one point above, let's say that's dominant alpha, it goes through the center, that's dominant delta. When it reaches the base, or the root chakra, or grounded into the planet, it comes back up, or that's theta, then it comes back up into delta, which is the center, the balance, then back up into alpha, then back down again. So this is going and repeating. Alpha, delta, alpha, theta. Delta, alpha, theta. That is Raven, I hate to use the term manipulating, that's Raven bringing herself to a state where the energy field is moving through the toroidal pattern. It's in balance. It's in harmony with the planet's energy field, which in turn, it's in harmony with the galactic energy field, which in turn is in harmony with the field of the universe. By doing this, and in my opinion, being in the center point or the dominant, every time we hit dominant delta, it's healing, which occurs when we're in dominant delta at night for 2 hours a night, if we're lucky to get there. Most of us, with our normal daily lifestyles, we never reach delta. A lot of people that wake up tired in the morning, they have never entered a state of delta. Using and doing what Raven does puts you over and over again into the state of delta. So even though you're in an awakened state, you're healing the body on a cellular level, and you don't have to be asleep to do it. Where I said before, and I'll reiterate it, it also allows the body to get recharged and rest. So when you're done doing this, you need very, very little sleep. It balances you. It heals you. It takes you to the state where your body's energy field can heal the physical at a cellular level. And the base of everything is at a cellular level. Organs can be healed. Emotions can be healed. All done by centering in the middle of the toroid. It's that dominant delta spike. Every time you hit the dominant delta spike, it's healing. Healing. And it can be replicated. It's over and over and over. And I lost my train of thought. Make sense?
Would you say that that's why I no longer have hepatitis B and lumps to be removed and things like that?
You know, I want to be real careful making a claim. I can say what happened.
Right.
But can I say if you do this, you're going to heal hepatitis? I don't want to put that out there.
I didn't ask for that. I said, you know, scientifically speaking, because of the states that, you know.
Sure. Okay. Are we still rolling here?
Yeah.
What else happens when you're in that state using Raven's method, hitting the dominant delta and being in the center of the toroidal energy field? The dominant delta allows the body to begin healing. The potential for healing, you know, it's hard to say again because it varies with so many different people. I am aware of people using Raven's method that have had hepatitis and were able to cure the hepatitis. And again, scientifically speaking, it's well known, well documented, that our state of minds, our emotional responses manifest themselves into the physical. So if you are emotionally and electromagnetically, which we are in essence, in a balanced state, this could be used as a tool to heal the body. It all interrelates. The electromagnetic field and the physical body, the emotional, it all interrelates. And every time you hit delta, the body's healing. Did I do that right?
Yeah.
You
Say-
had one other thing about satori versus, or no, meditative versus.
You know, like if a person's meditative,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and then, you know, and they don't necessarily access the toroid.
Got it. Comparing what Raven does to just meditating, there's a large difference. Through meditation, we can calm ourselves, we can relax, we can get an emotional effect, a feel-good effect from it. But it's different than what Raven does, because Raven's method takes us, again, as above, so below. We're alternating this. It's rhythmic, it's cycling. And that's what the body needs to truly heal. Meditation is great. I'm not putting that down whatsoever. Meditation allows us to relax and go within, but it does not have the same effect as Raven's method, that is shifting and changing and putting us in sync and in touch. It's it's very difficult to put easy. It's that oscillating effect, as above, so below, and then centered, is where true healing happens. Meditation can take us to a desired dominant brainwave state where we feel good, but will it necessarily heal? No. Is it a catalyst to be in a relaxed, balanced state to allow healing to happen? Sure it is. But it's not as profound as doing the toning and the breathing that keeps us in the center of the toroid itself. It's an actual manipulation of our body's energy field, and that's key. It's important. I spoke earlier about grounding ourselves to the planet and being part of the planet. Raven's method does the same thing, and that's where ultimately healing can happen. We become part of Source. Are we part of the Higgs boson? Probably not. But we become part of the Source, part of the all. Source is the best choice of words for it. That's where everything begins. That's where all healing occurs, from the Source.
Let's move on to extraterrestrials.
Wait,
Ah.
one quick
Oh, you got one.
question.
Okay.
With regards to this, which may be beneficial or not, but we can edit out if we want to. When you're talking about delta, dominant delta, circumstances at 1 to 3 hertz, what if we put in our environment a 1 to 3 hertz, frequency?
Okay. Yeah, that's a very good question. Earlier I spoke of being in a state of dominant delta, which is 1 to 3 cycles per second. Very relaxed, very healing. Also very dumbing down. If there was an external signal or external source, that if we had an appliance or something in our home that operated at a frequency below 3 cycles per second, it would very more than likely make us feel lethargic, because if the signal was strong enough, our brain would, because again, the brain works as a phase lock loop, it locks into any external signal it encounters that's strong enough. So if we were in our physical state being surrounded with a signal at that low of a frequency, we would probably be dumbed down for the day. Whenever we were around the signal, we'd just be, we're dumbed down. So it would not have a healing effect, it would have a dumbing down effect, and that's not what you want either. There again, too, in Raven's method, because you are shifting and moving through the toroidal energy field pattern, you're not locking in and staying dominant delta all the time. It would have an adverse effect, but because that's being moved and changed, as above, so below, grounded to earth, up into heaven, the universe, the galactic core, because that is oscillating and changing in motion, in movement, and centering every time it does a crossover through the center of the energy field, it's going to have a very healing effect. It's the way it should be. It is in a sine wave. Everything in the universe travels in a circle. My Native American friends and ancestors specifically talk about everything moves in a circle. And it's interesting because the elders that I spend time with, it was very important when we entered the lodge to enter and walk around the circle counterclockwise. Very, very important. Many things in science travel in nature travel in a counterclockwise spinning motion. So my point with it, with Raven's method, again, as above, so below, we are completing that 360-degree cycle. Even though it's more of a, well, it won't be linear, it's shaped as a toroid. So if you were to look at the toroid from the top, it's like looking down on a donut. And that energy field surrounds it. So you're actually look at it as an egg. And the center of the egg, the yolk of the egg being the center of the toroid. So that energy field is oscillating as above, so below, completing a 360-degree action, as in traveling with a circle. It's natural. What she does literally simulates, as a bad choice of words, puts you in sync with the full circle. You're making the complete cycle. And that's what's needed to do healing work, emotional work, and all kinds of other work.
Real quick, why do you say counterclockwise?
Why I bring into the point of it, and I'm just bringing it up as a curiosity, there's many things that travel counterclockwise. Hurricanes spin counterclockwise, of course, in one hemisphere. Cyclones in the Pacific, they say, go the other way. Tornadoes spin counterclockwise. Fluid dynamics, the convection currents that surround the planet and create the weather, travel in a certain, and I don't know if they're counterclockwise or clockwise. One hemisphere, they might be one way, and the southern hemisphere one way, northern hemisphere the other way. In my studies through the years, in reference to the circle, the saying, go full circle, Native Americans talking on how things go in a counterclockwise circular motion, the planet spinning in a certain direction. There just seems to be a lot of synchronicity between many things in the physical universe traveling in a counterclockwise direction. What is the ultimate significance of that? I don't know yet, but it's a curiosity that it does, and there's a reason for it.
We'll move on to ETs.
E.T. phone home. Well, to coin a phrase and a quote from Contact, it would be a terrible waste of space if E.T. didn't exist. I cannot say in my lifetime I've had, to my knowledge, waking physical contact with ETs. I have had two craft encounters in my life. One when I was 18 years old, and I remember I was driving to another town going on a date, so I was in a little bit of a hurry and looking at a craft versus getting to my date. It was a toss-up. But I stopped my vehicle and I got out, turned the engine off, and looked at this thing. It was cigar-shaped. It was hard to tell. It was nighttime. And I could see rectangular portals. There was 8 rectangular portals, like windows. And I went, okay, I was trying to rationalize what it could be. I didn't see any beings in the lighted windows. But this thing didn't move. And what it did move, it was very, very slow, and there was absolutely no sound with it. So the scientist in me went, okay, logic. What does logic dictate? The only thing it could be is a Goodyear blimp with the engine turned off, and I was looking at the windows in the gondola hanging beneath the Goodyear blimp. And I went, there's no reason for the Goodyear blimp to be out here in the middle of nowhere in the little town that I grew up in. That was my first encounter that I recall. My second encounter happened in 2000 up at Miriam Crater, 18 miles northeast of Flagstaff. Beautiful area. It's old lava flows. Miriam Crater is actually a 600-foot cinder cone that looks like a volcano, but it's just cinders. It's a huge vent. Very, very sparsely populated. It's right on the edge of the beginning of the Navajo Nation. I was set up there for a weekend with my tent, and I had my first Schumann resonance coil going, and I got in the middle of nowhere away from the power grid to specifically monitor Schumann resonance. And about 11 o'clock, and not a cloud in the sky. It was just beautiful out. No light pollution, 18 miles away from the city, 5 miles away from a town. The stars were like you could reach out and pick them out of the sky. But 11 o'clock at night, I went, well, I guess I'll turn in. And I noticed to the southwest, the stars were starting to go out. It was so dark, you couldn't physically see clouds up in the sky, but I noticed that the stars were winking out. And I went, well, this is high country. I hope these aren't clouds moving in and I'm going to get rained out. This whole episode took about 20 minutes. I had a little campfire going. I put the campfire out. I turned out my Coleman lantern, and I'm just sitting in there taking in the stars. And this area kept getting bigger and bigger and larger. After about 10 minutes, there were no more stars in a perfect triangular shape right above my head. The stars were gone. And I could just start making out a little bit out of the craft, metallic, huge. It took up a third of the sky, shaped in a perfect triangle, and I could make out outlines on the bottom of it, like protrusions and inclusions that went into it, like there were different compartments or different surface structures to it. Made absolutely no sound. And I remember my thoughts at the time, great, I'm up here alone, nobody's with me to validate this, nobody's ever going to believe me. So I never really told the story. I don't share it with many people because I have no way to validate it. I remember I had the feeling of, holy mackerel, stop, take me along, or would you stop so I could beat you? It took about another 10 minutes. Again, there was no sound. Took up a third of the sky. It was huge. And it moved out over the top of Miriam Crater, heading towards Hopi land, the Hopi Nation. And I lost sight of it behind Miriam Crater, the 600-foot high cinder dome. Was it E.T.? It could have been. Was it one of ours? It could have been. I'm not sure the technology we have, but I know the technology that exists is at least 50 years beyond what the general public is even aware of. So I don't know. Either or. Could have been E.T., maybe not. I feel E.T. does exist. I have my reasons for it. Can I validate it and solidify it? No, of course I can't. Personally, speaking for myself, I have no doubt that they're here. They've been here for a very, very long time. Are there bad ETs, good ETs? Probably. Whitley Strieber said it best in his book Communion. He said you're going to have good ETs and bad ETs are just like humans. Some are psychotic, some are nuts, some have no emotions, some have no feelings. So all of it's possible. For the most part, I think the ETs that are here, I have absolutely no issue with them. I've had an indicator back in my 20s that I was abducted. If they gave me a brain boost, I'm all for it. Come on back and give me another one. I have no adverse effects from the experience. So I'm not going to say it's a bad thing. What ETs I had encounter with, I have no idea. I've had time lapses during then, and I've had little glimpses and recalls, and I went, well, I must ate something bad and had a weird dream last night, but it was more than that. I've had waking visions, and I know what a dream is. So does ET exist as far as Lonetree's is concerned? Absolutely. I think they're beneficial. I think they are periodically giving us little boosts to help us evolve. And the same token, there's probably some not so nice ones here that really don't give a rip and are doing things they shouldn't be. Ultimately, just like there's light, good and bad, positive and negative, light and dark, there's the good force and there's the bad force at work in the universe. Yin and yang. The universe needs that to function. We're part of it all. There's part good, there's part bad. The trick is to balance it in the middle, or to walk, as my Native American elders used to say, walk the sun trail. If we can walk the sun trail more often than not, the better off we're going to be. So I think ET's here to help, and I think it's part of the balance. If we want to take it a step further, I don't think we evolved here. I think we were placed here. Are we a grand experiment in somebody's lab? No. We're here for a reason. We're here to evolve, to grow, to find our way back to source. I am a spiritual individual. I take issue with religion. Personally, I feel it's been used to control and to manipulate, and that's not what God, what the Creator wanted. That's not what Source wants. I like to feel that Source put us all out here as extensions of itself and said, find your way back. I'm giving you free will. I'm giving you a conscience. I'm giving you what makes me up. Find your way home. Have fun doing it. And I'm here to help you along the way if you need help. I had an individual one time, I gave a talk on the subject, and this lady came up after and she said, you sound like such a good Christian. Where do you go to church? And I told her, Church in the Desert. And she said, where is that? I've never heard of it. I says, out in that desert, as far away as I can get from people as possible. That's my church. That's where I feel my closeness to Source. I don't have anything against religion. Whatever works for any one individual that brings you peace and brings you closer to the Creator, to the Source, have at it. I'm all for it. For me, I just am not able to find it in a building anywhere. I do periodically go to church. For me, it's to show respect to the creative source. It's out of respect. The physical setting itself, I'm closer to God or Source out in the middle of the desert. And I like the term force because I can't say if it's feminine or masculine, so it's the force. It's the encompassing all, which is everything. It encompasses it all.
Could you talk a little bit, please, about an NDE,
Oh,
if you'd like to?
that's a very personal thing. I'm not going to cover my personal experience with it, but I'll cover what I think happens during an NDE. As I've said earlier, the physical body, this is like a car, it's a vehicle. It's just a means to transport what we truly are. What we this is going to get complicated. We are not all electromagnetic energy. A lot of what we are is electromagnetic in nature. That's our essence. Consciousness is something totally different that is imposed on the electromagnetic energy. If anybody has ever read Carlos Castaneda's books, he talks about where Don Juan says our true essence is like a luminescent egg with all these little fingers out of it. That is a very good way to describe the energy field. So that is the main essence of what we are. NDEs, and I've personally had one in my life. They're life-changing, to say the least. when we have an NDE, or for that matter, when Einstein said it best, energy never ceases to exist. It changes form. You cannot destroy energy. So what we are, all of our thoughts, everything that is imposed or impregnated into the body's toroidal-shaped electromagnetic energy field, changes form when the physical leaves, but it continues on. So when we have an NDE, we have left the physical. We're on our way to wherever we're supposed to go next. The tunnel exists. There is light at the end of it. I've experienced it. Did I want to come back? No. I wanted to keep going because I was going to source. I was going to the true essence of what we are. Being in the physical, for me at times, feels like swimming in a lake of pea soup. It's dense. The physical is very, very dense. And that's another great thing with Raven's method. It can take you into the state of being where you are disconnected from the pea soup. You're part of the source. You're part of the whole. Part of the balance. Functioning as above, so below in the center of the toroid. Again, it's all manipulating energy. So NDEs are our true essence, the body's energy field, leaving the body, going to wherever it needs to go next. And then you're coming back into the pea soup physical, which is traumatic in itself. People that have had NDEs know the experience that this is just temporary. I have to smile at that point. My father one time, God bless him, he had no belief system, so he felt when you're dead, and he was terrified of it. And to lighten the subject, in his final years, I told him one time, I said, you know, Dad, I said, there's so much up here, I realize there is not enough physical years left in my lifetime to explore everything I want to. There isn't. There's just too much. So I told him, I said, I hope when it's my time to cross over and I come back here, I remember right where I left off. And he was eating dinner and choked out his food. But in essence, that's true. My belief, and I don't ask anybody else to believe it, this is one school out of many. This is one class, one little segment of it. We're so much more. Some of the experiences I've had in life, when I get up every morning before sunrise, the first thing I do outside is raise my hands to the rising sun and go, thank you for another day, Creator. And at night I do my gratitude prayers and my thank you for another day, and I try to do reflection on, was I a jerk to somebody? And usually I find I was in one form or another, and I try to correct that. Again, the communication that's occurring is not only the verbalization or the physical of it, it's happening on a soul level, an energy field level. I don't know a lot about the subject, but the Kundalini, again, it's working from our core, from our essence, in that toroidal-shaped energy field. So an NDE is just one part of it, our energy. A lot of people speculate, and I can validate this one too from my own experience. When we sleep at night, more often than not, our true essence, our energy field is above the physical. We leave the physical and hover a foot or so above it because that's where we recharge. While the physical is being rebuilt, we're recharging up above it. And I had that one morning. And I never forget the feeling. I woke up literally wide awake, totally coherent. I could hear everything, sense everything, but I realized I was about a foot out of my body. Beautiful experience, wonderful experience. And I thought to myself, I made it. I finally made it OBE. No sooner did I have that thought, I felt two hands where my chest would be in the electromagnetic body, and I heard a female voice. I've only heard her 3 times in my life. She put her hands on what would have been my chest, and she said, "You're not ready for this." And she pushed me back into my body, and I know exactly what it felt like, because again, I came back in kicking and screaming. I didn't want to go. The feeling of being in your true form and out of body in the electromagnetic is incredible. Beautiful, peaceful, wonderful feeling. And that's truly what we are. That's why, and if it works for some people, that's great, that when you pass on, depending upon your actions in the physical life determines if you're in hell or heaven or purgatory. All of that's feasible and possible, but in my logic, in my way of thought, in the measly 80, 90 years, or if we're lucky, 100 years we spend in the physical, and everything we learn and everything we amass, that's not enough time to learn what we should learn to find our way back to source. So it makes perfect sense and logic to me that we come back here over and over and over, each time to learn something different, to learn something new, all finding our way back home.